Hello, Sober on Purpose. This is a mini-sode, so it's a solo just with me, Tanya. And I was just pondering. Um, I had this thought in graduate school. So while I'm sitting in graduate school, learning all these great things, I'm thinking, love your neighbor as yourself. So I'm sitting there in young 20s thinking, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, that implies that you have to have a self, right? That you have to believe you have a self, that you're worth something, that there is something to you. And as women, we're often taught that all of our energy faces outward. We don't save it for ourselves. We face it outward, and we take care of parents, of children, of spouses, of roommates, whoever. At young 20s, I was engaged, but not married yet. And so the self concept was something that really I was struggling with. And eh, you know reserving things for ourselves is really hard, and I find it really hard still later, much later than 20s. And it reminds me of the story of Mary and Martha. And I'm going to paraphrase this, but Martha comes to Jesus and says, I'm worn out. There is no way I can manage all of this myself. You brought all these people. Think about it. When Jesus came to her house, he didn't come alone. He had possibly all 12 disciples, the onlookers, all the other people that went with that. There was a whole entourage with Jesus. And Martha is saying, hey, all these people need to be fed. This was not an easy process in ancient biblical times. Things had to be gathered and roasted and prepared and laid out, and they had to follow kosher rules. Martha had a lot to do, and she was possibly the oldest of the three siblings. So not only was she responsible for Lazarus and Mary, she was also responsible for the household, for the servants, for everything that went with that. She was running the financial affairs. Possibly they were farming. Possibly they were selling oil. Who knew how they made their money? But she was one of the women supporting Jesus. And she comes to him and says, I'm pooped. I need some help, and you need to tell Mary to help me. Well, Jesus says something totally counter, which is what Jesus often says, something totally counter to what Martha is asking for. Jesus says, but the Lord said to her, and this is Luke 10:41-42, Dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. Now, if Jesus had said that to me, I probably would have double hipped him and said, oh yeah, who's going to feed all these people that you brought? Who's going to make sure that they're comfortable and that hospitality is extended in the way? I mean, this was such a big deal in a Jewish home. This was saying, I am with you. We are sharing, breaking bread together. This is saying we are at peace together. We are forming a friendship together. And all of these preparations had to be done according to the law. Well, we know what Jesus thought about the law. He came to fulfill the law, but he also saw that laws were being extended beyond what was necessary. So, can you hear yourself saying, but Jesus, all this has got to get done? And when we look at that, we got to remember who she was talking to. She is talking to the person who fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. If Jesus needed it done, he would have had it done. When we are coming into this, I'm looking at some things that are going on in my own life. A couple times a month, I volunteer for a group that focuses mainly on children with substance abuse disorder. Mothers are the backbone of this group. And the Martha voice from them is really strong from these mothers. And it would go something like this. Lord, I birthed this child. I cared for them. I loved them. I nurtured them. Now you are going to leave me here in this addiction mess to save this beloved child all by myself. Where are you, Lord? This is a compilation of what they're saying. They're saying, where are you? I've loved, I've cared, I've raised, I've done the details. Where are you, Lord? And like Martha many of these precious, precious mothers who are doing the very best with what they have forgotten that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, that working and worrying and saving the child has taken over their lives. They've given up their lives for this child. And what mother wouldn't do that? What mother wouldn't give up their life for this child? What they have forgotten is that they are important too. They're not just a conduit for bringing this child into the world, for loving this child, for telling the details, for making this child a home and a place. They are important too. They are fearfully and wonderfully made. And this love just keeps extending until they're giving from a dry well, because they're not going back to the one who gives them their true grace, their true life. So has loving a mood altering, addicted person drawn you into a Martha trap, focusing so much on the other that you no longer know who or whose you are? Did you stop taking care of yourself when the baby was born, when a situation happened and substance use disorder came in? Did it happen when there were deeper issues that you were trying to solve, but everybody else's needs took over, and so you quit healing, you quit seeking healing, you quit even talking about healing, you stopped going to the doctor, you stopped exercising, you stopped eating, maybe you're not even sleeping. I have some folks I'm talking to right now who are not sleeping. They are focusing all their attention on how to heal the one with the substance use disorder behavior or whatever addiction it might be. They are missing the best part. They are not coming to God and turning this over. Now, how hard is that? It's hugely hard. I experience it every day myself. To be able to do this when God says, love your neighbor as yourself, there are no other commandments greater than these two. Love the Lord God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. It means you have to have a self that you feel is worth loving. So as strange as it sounds, this this group, this group of mothers who are loving on their children also need to be loving on themselves. They're modeling for their children what their children are often unable to do, to see themselves as worthy, to see themselves as whole, to see themselves as creative, resourceful, and whole from God, made that way already. That's the modeling. So if you're giving everything away, I would encourage you to take some time to be Mary today. Take some time to give the greatest gift you can give your addicted loved one. It's finding yourself, loving yourself as Christ would, so that you can give that away. Because what we know is you can't give away what you don't have. So this constitutes taking care of yourself in small ways and in large ways. And it was when I realized that I was doing everything for everybody else and doing it out of obligation that I had become so lost that I wasn't even really able to do it well. I had become angry and resentful, and everybody was taking everything from me. But that wasn't true. I was giving it away. So if you're struggling with this, and if this seems so flipped to you that you think, Tanya, that's ridiculous. I know I need to give to my child. I need to give everything to my child. Join us. Join us at the Rise Above Addiction Facebook group. And it's a community. We talk about these things. We share about these things. We support you through this because everybody needs support. And if you're finding yourself pondering the deeper levels of self-care, make sure that you get on our email list and ask for the workshop on self-compassion, because self-care isn't what you think. It is so different from what you think. And it will lead you back to taking care of your family members. It will lead you back to the heart of Jesus. It will lead you back to peace in yourself. It's amazing what the shift will be. So make sure you get on our email list, which you can join us over at tanyajoya.com, TANYAGIOIA.com, which I think it says at the outro of this, and get on our mailing list and make sure you ask for self-compassion, the workshop on self-compassion, or join us over at the Rise Above Addiction Facebook group. We've got so much for you so that you can take care of you and let Jesus take care of you so that you can take care of all those wonderful people in your life. Thanks so much for listening. Be sure and contact us. I would love to hear from you.